وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس وما يعقلها إلا العالمون.
بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ما بعد. So we move on and we conclude Surah Al-Baqarah, and we're still upon the same section of parables regarding Sadaqah. And it is amazing that in this one page, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has 4 parables that He gives, all of them about Sadaqah. And today we'll finish up these parables, and this is something that I want us to think about, that in this one page, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given so many different examples and encouragements and parables. And the concept is that Allah wants us to understand that giving charity is an investment that is going to return back to us in this world and in the next. And if we give it properly, then we will be rich in this dunya and rich in the akhirah. And if we don't give it properly, then it will be an investment that crashes to zero. So this is the whole point here. So in the next verse here, verse 265, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُم, the similitude of the one who gives his money. Now notice here, Allah has already given a similitude. 3 ayats ago, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the example of the grain that gives forth 7 ears. Those ears have 100, so that gives 700. Then, literally a few verses down, verse 265, Allah gives another parable, another example. And what is this example? The example of the one who gives his wealth for the sake of Allah is like that of a garden. كَمَثَلِ جَنَّةٍ بِرَبْوَةٍ. Rabwa means it is at a high place, but not on the top of a mountain. The word Rabwa means it is elevated, but not very elevated. The Arabic is very beautiful, and you actually have a word that indicates moderate elevation, not too high, and that's Rabwa. So the Jannah is at a Rabwa. Why is it beneficial to have the Jannah at a Rabwa? Because, and this is something all the farmers know, that there are certain elevations where the soil and the water and the climate gives you the best crop. And this is something that every farmer knows. In fact, if you are into any type of specific, whether it's tea, whether it's honey, the best teas are found in plantations that are at rabwas, okay? The best honeys come from the honey that is harvested in the mountains. So there's certain types of blessings, if you like, or certain types of soils that will give you a superior crop. And so Allah is saying, the example of the one who gives his money for the sake of Allah is like the one who owns a garden that is at a rabwa. كَمَثَلِ جَنَّةٍ بِرَبْوَةٍ أَصَابَهَا وَابِلٌ. Lots of rain comes down. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says the wab is going to come, and so فَآتَتْ أُكُلَهَا ضِعْفَيْن. Its produce will be double. وَإِن لَمْ يُصِبْهَا وَابِلٌ فَطَلْ. Even if it doesn't rain a lot, a little bit of rain will be sufficient for the garden to produce. Now, what is the example? What is the parable? Some ulama say that this is another parable for your charity being like an investment that gives you more than what you put in. And that's valid. And if that were the case, then this is another example that is similar to the first one. Other ulama say, and this is very interesting, that the parable here is that the one who gives his money for the sake of Allah, it is as if he has a permanent source of income that is coming in extra. It is as if as he's giving money, he's got an investment, which is the Jannah at the Rabwa. And that Jannah at the Rabwa will continue to give him more and more and more. So it is as if when you give for the sake of Allah, your own money continually increases. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for you from sources you never expected. And of course this is proven, as we know from the ahadith and other verses of the Quran, that when we give for the sake of Allah, Allah gives us from sources we never expected. So this is the metaphor or the similitude of the one who gives his money for the sake of Allah, that Allah is saying, you will get in return a permanent source of investment. And that investment will be much more than what you expected. Sometimes it's going to be even double. And even if certain circumstances, the heavy rain don't come, still you will get much more than what you put in. Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. And Allah is well aware of what what you do. And then the final example is given. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says, أَيَوَدُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن تَكُونَ لَهُ جَنَّةٌ مِّن نَخِيلٍ وَأَعْنَابٍ. Once again, we go to the other side. What is the other side? The one who gives without iman in Allah. The one who gives for riya. So notice here, we gave two examples in the previous lessons. One who gives for Allah, and one who gives for the sake of his own riya, or for the sake of boasting and for the sake of reminding. In this section, 265 and 266, the exact same two people. Number one, who gives for the sake of Allah. Number two, the one who doesn't give for the sake of Allah. And this once again underscores the importance of niyyah. The same deed, when it is done properly, it will give us back a massive investment. And when it is done improperly, it will bring back zero investment. That's why in verse 265, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ إِبْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ. They give it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what I forgot to mention, وَتَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ. The phrase is there, I forgot to mention it. تَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ, it means, it's a very interesting phrase here, and by reaffirming what is in their own selves. تَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ. What does it mean they're reaffirming what is in themselves? When we give charity, what happens? We get doubts. We say, are we really going to get more back? Is this something beneficial? تَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ means their iman reaffirms, yes, you're going to give for the sake of Allah. And so they battle their own doubts internally. That's what tathbita min anfusihim means. It's a powerful phrase over here. Next time you're thinking about giving to a fundraiser, next time you're thinking about giving for a cause, remember this verse, وَتَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ. They give and they affirm what is in their own hearts. Some ulama also say, there's another type of tathbeet. So there's an internal tathbeet and an external tathbeet. The internal tathbeet, you are reaffirming your own intention. And what that means is, you're making sure I'm doing this for the sake of Allah, and then you are overcoming your doubts. What is the doubt? Is this really beneficial? Will I really get my money back? I need this money. That's the doubt. Tathbeet comes and you say, no, this is for the sake of Allah. Allah will give me back more. That's the internal. What is the external tathbeet? Our scholars say the external tathbeet is that you verify and you think about the causes you're giving to. You see which cause is the best to give to. You don't just give without thinking. You give and you research, which charity should I give to? Which person should I give to? And this is another reality of giving charity, that unfortunately all too often we don't really do our due diligence. We should think about the charities we give to, and we should diversify our charities like we diversify our investments. And we should choose all different types of charities, local charities, international charities, friends and family that need our help, and refugees across the globe. And we do our due diligence, and in that due diligence is also reward from Allah, because you're finding out which one is the best charity. And there are so many stories from the Sahaba and the Salaf that they would discreetly ask around who is the one deserving of charity. They would do their research, and in that research it is another type of worship, and it is an act of ibadah. And that's what tathbeet of the external type means. So this verse has two types of tathbeet. The internal, which means you reaffirm your intention, you make sure it is for the sake of Allah. And then the external, which is that you do your due diligence and you make sure that you're giving to the right causes and the most effective. And if we do this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'm guaranteeing you an investment that will continue to give you with minimal effort. It is a garden that is situated in the ideal location. You don't need to provide water for it, because the water is coming upon the mountains and the water is going to rain down upon it, and your investment is going to double back. And even if for some reason it doesn't rain, still a little bit of water is enough for that area, and you will still get your investment back. And inshallah, this is a beautiful metaphor for us, that when we give for the sake of Allah, Allah continues to provide for us. Tomorrow inshallah we'll finish this metaphor and we'll move on to the final example of the one who does not give his charity, who gives his charity for the wrong reasons, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes him. We'll continue tomorrow. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وكذاك نسألك الثبات فإنها فتن تجي بالشيب للشبان يا رب واختم بالتقى أعمالنا حتى نساق لروضة وجنان.